Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Welcome.
Today is the first Sunday in December 2021.
And as you can see from our background, we're broadcasting from the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, it does look like it. And our topic title today is How Could Life Be Any Better? But before we get to that, I want to start with an idea and a prayer um, that is entitled Attraction, and it's by Ernest Holmes in the book 365. The Bible quote is from Mark 11:24, and it says, "What things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them." I'm just going to do a little aside there. I have told people who want to know in a nutshell what we believe. I said, we believe just what Jesus said in the Bible, that is done unto you according to your belief. Or this one, whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believing you receive them and you shall have them. Those two statements sum up our whole teaching. And a lot of people don't even realize that it's in the New Testament that Jesus said. So Ernest Holmes goes on to say how simply Jesus tells us that whatever we need, we shall receive if we believe that we have it. It is so hard then, or is it so hard then for us to believe that the divine gift is forever made? Prayer is a sincere desire of the intellect to enter into conscious union with the divine presence and to receive direct from it every good thing that makes life worthwhile. My prayer today is one of affirmation. It incorporates a complete acceptance of the divine beneficence and the eternal givingness of spirit. Today, I lift high my cup of acceptance, knowing that the universal horn of plenty fills it to overflowing. This includes everything I need, whether it be health, happiness, or wisdom. Today, my mind is open and my consciousness receives the kingdom unto itself. And then it ends with a quote from the Science of Mind book by Ernest Holmes that says, every business, every place, every person, everything has a certain mental atmosphere of its own. And this atmosphere decides what is to be drawn to it.
Interesting.
So that's the end of our reading for the day. And I got the title. I was reading one of Byron Katie's books. I've had it a long time and never read it. She actually wrote this along with her husband, Stephen Mitchell, who is a Buddhist, and it's based on the Tao Te Ching, which is Taoist wisdom, ancient Taoist wisdom. The name of the book is A Thousand
Just
Names.
hold it close to yourself.
I'm trying. 1,000 Names for Joy.
It's okay.
It's a mystery, but it's called 1,000 Names for Joy by Byron Katie. I'm getting it in the corner there.
Backwards.
Yeah. So I was reading it, and she was really giving her own experience, because I don't know if you know her story, but she had a real conversion experience, not very different from Paul's, when Saul went to Paul in the Bible, where she was just a totally new person. And she went from being suicidal, totally depressed in a treatment facility. She actually fell off her bed one morning, and the way she woke up was like a
Changed person.
totally new being, and everything was wonderful.
So
And
if you're in pain and suffering,
fall
just
off the bed.
fall off the bed. And when you get up, you'll hopefully be a new person if nothing's broken.
Right. But she just, but it was really very strange, because it was a total conversion. She didn't know her family members. They said, "This is your husband." She was okay. He's as good as any other husband. She
Should
didn't
work
know
out.
her children, but everything was wonderful. Everything was great, and she started questioning her beliefs, the very beliefs that had made her so miserable and depressed. And she would question, is that true? I get that the thought or belief is there, but is it true? And then, am I sure it's true? And how do I feel when I believe that thought? Because this is a huge thing. We know that in Science of Mind, we know that our thoughts create our experience, our thoughts and our emotions create that mental atmosphere of what we attract to us. But most of us don't know that we can question our thoughts and decide to keep them or not. And this is the real gift that she adds, which is, to question every thought you have that makes you sad or miserable. And we can all fall into those so easily. And when we say, well, of course I have that thought, look at my circumstances. Why wouldn't I have that thought? Yes, but does that thought making you happy? Is it giving you peace? And that's the criteria she uses. And if
Right.
it's not giving you peace, question whether that thought is really so.
Yeah, our thoughts become many self-fulfilling prophecies.
Right.
And so the thing that you're looking for, you're looking from. You're looking from a place of fear, you're looking from a place of doubt, you're looking from a place of self-hate, then you're looking from that place to the place where that's going to be validated. And without meaning to, we're constantly validating our thinking. And I'm reminded, every time we come up with this topic or something like this, I'm reminded of a movie that I can never remember, but it takes place in a Nazi concentration camp. And our hero has a young child, and the young child, of course,
Oh, that's in Italy. That takes place in
in Italy,
Italy,
okay,
and
a
they
concentration
are
camp.
they
Right.
are right.
And so the normally the child would
And
be,
I think that's called something like It's a Wonderful Life.
Life is beautiful.
Life
life is
is beautiful.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I knew we were going to get help today. But
See, the voice
what's so
delivers.
wonderful about this is the father is continually telling his child how wonderful things are going to be. Someday you're going to get to ride on the tank, which is a Nazi tank that's keeping them all in prison. But someday you're going to be able to ride in the tank. And this kid is excited and he's delighted, and he's not suffering because he's looking through the eyes of his father's imagination, his father's creativity.
Was father trying to protect him?
Well, but it's his father's imagination that his father could
True.
imagine a scenario in which his son could be living that was different from the one that he was living in. And I think a key to this is the use of our imagination. When we use our imagination to explore a belief and ask ourselves, if I were to imagine it differently, if I were to imagine my life working the way I'd like it to work, if I were to imagine that I was already a success and that nobody had to know except me, what would I look like and how would I behave and how would I act? And I think, we could certainly learn from some of the fine actors that we admire, that we see in movies, who talk about when they act a role out. Sometimes they get so in character. And I heard one recently talking about it. He said, when when I was in this character, I felt like that character from the other side came down and channeled through me how I was going to be in the role. And so, but what he's also saying is my ability to imagine was so
Mhm.
powerful that it unlocked all of the closed places in my life or in consciousness had been closed to me. It opened those to me to be able to access them. What if we imagined that we're extraordinary beings?
Exactly. And so this title that I got was one of the things that she was just in one of the paragraphs where she was saying what she legitimately felt. How could life get any better? She says, and then the phone rings, and it does. In other words, more opportunities, more money, whatever came through the phone call. But the things that she's grateful for, you and I might consider problems. Like she was having vision problems and had some disease name, and she had blurry vision, so that she actually had to get help with picking out her clothes because she wasn't sure she was coordinating colors from her husband. She had to get help from her husband. But all this is just wonderful because it is to her. And even in these situations of challenge, she's going, how could life get any better? She's, we have sky. We have sky. How
Yeah,
magnificent is
yeah.
it to have a sky? So, all these things that we take for granted. But I realized when I read it that when we think we're in need, that we need something, and we're in lack, what we need is a new idea.
Yeah.
That's all we need, a new idea there where we feel empowered, instead of disempowered and needy. So that's something for us all to remember. The ideas are there.
I was talking to one of my clients who is 75, and she was, again, telling me how much she hated being old and how difficult it was being old and getting older. And so I said, could you just close your eyes for a minute and imagine that you've always been 75, that you were born 75 years old. The body you have now is a perfect 75-year-old body you've always had. What's that like for you? And she broke into tears. And I said, why are you crying? She said, when I think of it that way, it's not hard to be 75. And she said, maybe I need to forget that I was ever any other age. And I said, that's really a good
Yeah,
idea, because you
yeah.
see, the only age you need to remember is the age you decide that you are right now. And you can decide that you're ageless and timeless, like Deepak Chopra said in his book that he made a lot of copies of and sold a lot of copies of because of the title alone, Timeless and Ageless. What if we used our imagination in favor of creating a world in which it's okay for us to be? In fact, it's wonderful to be. When you were talking about Byron Katie waking up to herself and her senses and all of that, I'm reminded of babies, little children, when they're looking at their
Yeah,
fingers and
yeah.
examining their hands and being
Look at
amazed and then
that.
moving them, and they can even bite their toes, which I can no longer do. It's just totally amazing.
Yeah, it's just amazing to them. Well, when you talk about identity, who are you really? One of my favorite expressions of a self-identity, I read in Raymond Charles Barker's books. Can't remember which one,
Somebody will
but it
probably tell
had to
us.
do with one's identity. And he says, how I identify myself is I am a timeless, spaceless continuum. And I think that perfectly identifies who we are.
I tried
Because,
that when I was stopped by the sheriff for
yeah,
speeding.
that didn't
He
work.
said no.
But
Uh,
other than thinking of ourselves as a human being that's this age and has so long to live and all those negative things, we really are a continuum because we continue on. We don't die, our body does, but who we are as spirit continues on to new adventures. And what in the world is not wonderful about that? So we need to remember these things and find the joy in everything, to find, how could life be any better? Because that's the consciousness, that's that mental atmosphere that brings more good to us.
mhm.
And when we are in the mental atmosphere, oh, poor me, my life sucks and everything hurts and I'm getting old and what's the use anyway? You just attract more
Well, and
what you don't want
you become a far more astute observer.
of the bad.
Yeah, so whatever you're looking at is I don't know whether it was Ernest Holmes who said it, but whatever you're looking at, you're looking from. If you're
You're
looking
looking
from,
for and looking with.
yeah, you're looking with the eyes of pain and suffering, you're going to see a lot of that. I think one of the most difficult things that happened to me early on being trained as a therapist was the more training I got, the more able I was to see what was wrong with people, what was wrong with their behavior, what was wrong with the things that they were doing wrong, meaning that they didn't function well and it interfered. And I got to be very good at that, but I also got to be pretty poor at noticing what was right with people,
Mm.
what was good about people. And I had to really literally relearn how to connect what was best and good, and in fact, put that forward and not put forward what was wrong. And I talked to other therapists and I said, so tell me about what you do. And I said, it's so depressing working in this kind of field because you just keep seeing what's wrong with people. And I said, well, maybe what we need to be doing is collectively talking about what's right with people. And then we can help them correct the things that they call wrong. You can't have a right action if you're living in a wrong place. Yeah.
Exactly. So you were going to use the example
Yeah.
of a storage.
Yeah. A couple, was Judith was talking about this earlier to me this morning. I thought, wow, what a wonderful thing. What if, and you can, if you can, don't close your eyes now because I want you to stay in touch with us. But at some point, close your eyes and imagine, using your imagination again, that you have a beautiful, magnificent storage space. It's not close to you. You have to get in the car and drive a distance to get to it, but it's a beautiful storage space. And in that storage space is everything you've ever wanted, everything your heart would be content to have, everything that would make you happy. It's there. It's yours. You've already got it. Now, knowing that could change things because you can look around and say, well, I don't have it here, but I could go to storage and get it. But the thing that's important about the storage unit that has everything that you've ever wanted already in it is, in order to access it, there has to be a change of state. That is, you have to get up from wherever you are, get the keys to your car, get in the car, and you have to drive some distance. And when I say that symbolically, what I mean by that is you're going to have to change the state of your thinking, to change the state of your mind, to go to where the thing is that's yours. Often we know the thing is ours, but we can't change our state of consciousness enough to access it. We are stuck in, I don't have it, I can't see it. And the same thing could be said about your bank account. You haven't seen the money you have in the bank, but you trust that it's there and you easily access it. I know I do whenever I go to Amazon. And so since you can access it and you use it on a regular basis, although you've never seen it, you believe in it and you have confidence in it. You have comfort. I have quite a bit of money saved in the bank. Where is it? I don't see it. It's there. What if you knew you had an extraordinary savings account with unlimited funds, and all you had to do was to change the state that you're in right now to access that? Now, what are the changes you need to make? In some cases, you need to get a pen and paper. Some cases you need to go on your computer. Some cases you need to get in your car and drive a distance. But in every case, you need to change from the state of I don't have to the willingness to have and the behavior in favor of having.
Yeah, that is so important. Um, we've often heard this phrase. I think it goes back to Est. Who would you be without your story? Your story is all the conclusions you've made up about yourself and your life. And Byron Katie says you never know until you inquire, and you inquire into your story and what you believe about it, and then really ask, is that true? She went through a whole exercise, or her husband wrote a whole exercise she did with a man who was dyslexic, and he just started out, my life is so hard because I cannot read and write like other people. And it makes it so hard to work and do email. And so she questioned that, is that true? Louder. Okay. And we said, well, of course it's true. And then she managed to ask enough questions about what were the benefits. And it turns out he's very creative and he's actually quite successful. He had been successful for 42 years. And she started pointing out all the benefits. He had lots more time than other people did who read the news and were disturbed by it and that kind of thing. So he had more time, he had more creativity. He could get people to do things for him like that. And he finally changed the thought that I'm defective, because that's a thought he got from teachers and school and experiences. They were valid experience. It's just the belief is not true, that he's defective. What's true is he's dyslexic. That does not have to be uh, uh, inferior. It can be an advantage, doesn't have to be a disadvantage. And he was finally able to change that belief, that thought. So that's huge. The only thing that we can do to free ourselves from our painful thoughts is to change them. And we're the only ones who can, the only ones who can change our minds. So it's huge freedom.
I don't know who said it, but somebody said there are three sides to every story. There's a story the way you tell it, there's a story the way other people would tell it, and then there's a story the way it possibly really exists as something even different from that, and there's an exchange. Branson, I don't know what his first name is, who was the head of founder of Virgin Airlines, is seriously dyslexic.
Yes, he is.
But what that has allowed him to do was to free the part of his creative mind without limitation.
Right.
And I was listening to yesterday, we watched an HBO special on Sondheim, Stephen Sondheim. And
6 by Sondheim.
6.
That's what the title of the show is, 6 by Sondheim.
One of the things that fascinated me about it, he said, a lot of you see words, I see letters. And I put them together in different combinations and anagrams. And I look at them because every letter has a sound and has its own lyrical quality and has its own life. And I put them together to create my songs. I thought, wow, isn't it interesting? If you just read words, you miss the letters. And if you miss the letters, you miss the sound. But not everybody can do that, nor would everybody want to. It could be a big burden for a lot of people to have to do that. But what I'm suggesting is the way that you're wired is exquisite for you and has all kinds of possibilities. And if you haven't been able to access the benefits, maybe you're not doing the things that you need to be doing that would allow you to do that.
Exactly. Exactly. So, kind of to summarize, um, one of the things that Byron Katie does is she identifies thoughts that calls them stressful thoughts. So not bad thoughts or negative thoughts or anything, but any thought that stresses you. And she says, do you believe a stressful thought? Then you're confused. Do you realize the thought is not true? Then you are enlightened to it. Because she says life does not life is not pain and stress. That comes from our believing
Mhm.
those stressful and painful thoughts. And when we change our minds about it and no longer believe it, we are free and life is beautiful. And how could life get any better, you know, when you free yourself? So it's really important to know that we have that kind of power
Yeah.
over our own lives and our own joy, our own happiness, our own abundance. Because when we are in that consciousness of, gosh, everything is great, I just am so thankful, you attract more good and more good. You know, the way we were taught to prayers, because, oh, dear God, please, if you find me worthy, please, give me this or that, or help this person or that person. The begging and pleading comes from
Lack.
place of lack. I really don't have this, and I really want it, really need it, please, please. And we don't have a God that gives out according to your begging. We
If you were
have an energy that gives according to like a magnetic attraction.
if you were to go to the bank and say, I need to borrow money, they would say, what's your collateral? If you really want to borrow good, your collateral is God. Your collateral is
Yeah.
divine mind, divine intelligence.
Don't tell the bank that, but that's the
Well,
truth.
because they will call the people that come and get you. Yeah.
And take you
And take you
away.
away they will. Yeah. Before we wrap it up, I want to pay a couple of minutes to the song we chose for today that we're not
Oh,
we're not
yeah.
going to play on the air, but we'll play it afterwards. And any of you that are watching it that tune out when we get off and want to watch it on YouTube, feel free to do that. In 1955, a movie came out, and the movie was a Rodgers and Hammerstein movie, and it was a revolutionary movie in the sense that until then, when musicals came out, musicals started with a great chorus. They started with a great bombastic theatrical presentation. And Rodgers and Hammerstein in particular, he was cutting edge new thought. He was always on the edge of experimenting. And one of the reasons he was so successful was because he was willing to experiment and take great risk. We need to do that with our thinking. So he opens this Oklahoma piece of work, and he opens it with a single song sung in a cappella. Oh, what a beautiful morning. And I thought, wow, what a perfect song, but also what a perfect history. He was saying, oh, what a beautiful morning, not the way it's necessarily always been for you, but oh, what a beautiful morning. We can create a brand new one. We can create it and present it in a way that it hasn't been presented before. And wouldn't that be something? And the entire audience is sitting there thinking, oh, this is going to be different.
Mhm,
And in fact, for us to have a beautiful morning, sometimes we have to wake up and say, I'm willing to have this be different.
mhm. Oh, what a
So we're
beautiful
going to
morning.
play that in a little bit. But for those of you that want to, and I recommend, of course, I remember going to the theater. I was 11 years old, and I remember sitting in the theater watching it for the first time and just being amazed at two things: one, the beauty of the song, and two, that this man could ride a horse the way he rode it.
And it's Gordon McRae,
Yeah,
and he's beautiful and he sings
yeah.
beautifully
See,
too.
I didn't know about the beautiful guy. I just knew the horse is beautiful, and that he rode that horse really, really well. At 11 years old, that's a big deal.
It is. So let's end with a prayer,
Okay.
shall we? Okay. So join us in prayer and in consciousness, and let's know the truth of our being, which is that we are timeless, spaceless, continuum.
And knowing this simply transforms our moment to moment experience into an exquisite adventure, into a kind of safari that allows us to embrace life in a way that we've never embraced it before, but we say yes to it. And we're excited to know that we can do this.
And we give thanks for all of our teachers and writers who share their wisdom with us that we may learn even faster than we could on our own. And we give great thanks for knowing that we have the ability to question our thoughts, to question our beliefs, and know that if any thought or belief is causing us stress or pain, it can't be true. And we're the only ones who can question its veracity. So we give thanks for all that we have. We give thanks for every experience, knowing that's what we're here for, is for the experience and for the wisdom that we gain and we glean. And so today we say,
And so it is.
how could it be any better? And so it
And
is.
so it is.
Okay, so let me stop the recording.